So I believe everyone can see my screen. So we're going to be talking about data analytics. I always refer to myself as an analytics coach. I like the name coach because I like to see myself like a coach, like a mentor, because that gives me the ability to impart knowledge and impart ideas to others around me. I did send a bit of my biography to the beginning. So my name is Obama. I came to Canada in 2010, and then I was very fortunate to land my first job in BlackBerry. But like it is, 1 year after I joined BlackBerry, the company was closing at that time, and it started to lay people off. That was when I learned the verbiage, last in, first out. But however, the department I was working in completely closed, and I was an operations analyst at that time. So when I came out, I decided to look for, then I went into market research, like trying to look for which field should I go into. So then I had my brother tell me about this field called data analytics. And I went Indeed and I started doing a search. And it amazed me, that there was a big gap in that analytics section. So I noticed that there were so many people in business professional, and there were also so many people in the IT professional. But there were so many people that were BAs, business analysts, but there were very few people that were in the business analytics field, which were people who understood IT, who were actually coders, data analysts, but also understood business. I remember my interviews in those days, they always ask me, why should we hire you? I'll tell them because I have the best of two worlds. So that was how I started exploring that area of career. And then I found out that that area had very few people. And, I could remember back then in 2 weeks, I got 21 interviews. And that was really what excited me in that particular field. And I decided to stay there. And that is the field that I grew in. And that is where I am still now. So I also one thing I always say is that my core value, I have a few core values. One, I'm a Christian, so my core value will always lie within my religion. The Lord is my helper. So in everything I do, I still believe in the grace of God that is able to grant harvest or increase to my labor. But then above all, I believe in hard work. I like this quote from Thomas Edison. The value of an idea lies in the using of it. I meet many people that dream. I meet many people that want to be so many things, but they hardly get started. One thing about me is that when I get a thought or when I think about something, I go for it. In 2012, when the whole data analytics was starting, then nobody knew what it was going to become, but it just came to me as an idea, and I decided to, I'm going to run into it. I'm going to get training in it. I'm going to get certification in it. I didn't use it till 3 years after. But I believe in starting something when it occurs to me. I'm not really somebody that keeps, and I don't really look for so many excuses within a thing. And I don't figure out, oh, will it work? Will it fail? I just go ahead. I remember talking to a co-op student that worked with me. One thing I told her that I see knowledge and academics as a library. So whichever one I'm able to get, I take it and I put it in a library. In your house, for example, if you have a shelf full of books, there are many of them you may never bring out to use. But there are some that along the line, something comes up and that will make you, please put your computers on mute. Can you please put it on mute so that I don't echo? Thank you.
Administrator can mute everybody except you.
Okay, so can you please mute everyone? Thank you. So, so when it becomes necessary, you will go to your shelf and get out that skill. If you wait for it to become to become the market before you come into the market. There's what they call in marketing the penetration tactics. Then once you go into a matured market, it becomes competitive to compete there. But if you learn to acquire knowledge and keep it, you always become one of the early learners in any career. Then I put Triple J here because Triple J is also part and parcel of me. Triple J Consulting is my coaching outlet where I mentor and coach people in analytics. So it's a training outfit for people who come to me that they want to play in that field. And then I run classes, I run analytical classes, and that's where I coach and mentor them, help them with resume, help them with interview tips, and work with them until they're able to secure an analytics role within the industry. So I got this picture from Oster. Thank you. So, he was trying to give me something that was going to be very good in terms of a pictorial way to be able to show what data transformation was all about. So he sent this to me. And it really, really speaks to, what we mean by data transformation. So if you look at the very top, you will see that these are pieces of, what I call it, blocks. And that is how data is. So in the world that we are today, we have lots of data everywhere. Think about Facebook, it's all about data. You go to Instagram, it is data. Your WhatsApp is data. The Zoom that I'm currently talking, even this video this training I'm doing right now is data. You go to the retail store is data. So data has become so much in the current digital age that many companies are swamped with data. They have it in so many silos, different data warehouses, different social media, and they're all mixed up together. Whether they are structured data like their transaction data. So for example, if you go to Lowe's and you're buying things in the cashier, it's called transactional because these are structured data. Structured data means that it has a format, it has a structure. But then they also have a lot of data going through social media, going through their call center, going through tests, going through mobile phone. These are unstructured data because they have no format. They are just letters, text, video, pictures. But all of them put together makes up data. So you will see that it's everywhere. Before you start making data to make sense, at the point that you start to transform data, you will start to sort it. Sorting it means that you're trying to put things that are like to be in one bucket. So you put all the ones that are from mobile phone together, all the ones that are pictures together, all the ones that are video together. So you sort them so that you will be able to read meaning out of them. So that is usually the first thing that's the first intuitive thing to do when you're giving data. Then the next thing you do is to arrange it. In this picture, it is arranged by color. So in arrangement, you can arrange based on different things. You can arrange based on ascending order. You can arrange based on descending order. But this basically shows that arranging is just putting it to follow a hierarchy, an order, a hierarchy. And then the next thing is you present it. So you're going to present data in a way that it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, no matter the volume of data that you have in an organization, if you're not able to present the data in a meaningful form, it's very hard for that data to be used. Then that data will only become expense, cost for the organization. Because the only way an organization can consume data is based on information, insights that they derive from data. So we come to the goal of data. At the end of the day, there is only one primary goal of data, And you can see here that according to Kali, who is the ex-president of HP, he says that the goal of data is to turn data into information, and from information into about every executive, every CEO, every VP in the office. Everybody is hungry for information and also hungry for insights. If you are working in Amazon and you're able to come to Amazon and tell Amazon, when I look at your data, I can see that people will stop to buy bottled water in the next 2 years, but people will like to buy packet water. That's a very great insight that you have given to the executive. And then it makes them to prepare for the market or to prepare for that shift 2 years ahead of time. That is why data is becoming extremely very important, because people want to build strategies that are informed. In the world where competition is now very tight, nobody wants to make guesses anymore. People want to be at least 70 to 80% informed with facts before they can put in a lot of millions into strategies. And that is what is making the whole market, the whole hype about data. I was talking to a lawyer who told me that she saw a role called legal analyst, where now lawyers are even expected to know how to query data. As the world goes more data intelligent, data savvy, there is hardly any career or any line of profession that you go into that they will not want you to have the core base of data. I tell people that sometimes when you look at that career called data analyst, that is becoming a core bone, whereby a marketing analyst is a data analyst, a risk analyst is a data analyst, a business analyst is a data analyst, a legal analyst is a data analyst. So we are saying, get your business acumen, get your business domain. But for us to be sure that you can give us, that you can be able to guide us based on the business knowledge that we think you have, then you have to justify it with the facts that come from data. And that is why it's becoming more of a base skill as we evolve in the future years. Another quote I like is the one that comes from Albert Einstein. He says, imagination is more important than knowledge. Why I like to bring out this is that when you look at visualization, when you look at reports, all that can happen to you is to drive you through map minding, imaginations. If somebody brings a report for you, which we are going to see as we go further, it will raise a lot of questions, because as you look at it, you start to imagine, if I grew my business 50% this year, wow, it means I can grow it 100% next year. See, that is imagination. You're already imagining that you can grow your business 100%. And immediately you're thinking, so how am I going to do this? You're already bringing your imaginative mind mapping to work. This is how most businesses are working right now. Everybody is looking for innovation, novelty. But those innovation and novelty are driven through data insights. The Google executive chairman once said, we run the company by questions, not answers. They're looking for things that will drive questions. Because as questions are being asked, while we are trying to find the answers to the question, while we are trying to resolve those questions, we find lots of answers that will help solve the strategy. Oh, we grew by 200%. Why? Why did it happen here? Why not here? What if we tried here? These are the things that drive questions. And these are the things that bring up strategies and insights that have made big companies to become where they are. I went to Google and I got a lot of data quotes too. I will come back to that. I will show you a lot of data codes that I have, but I think because I'm on slide, I can't do that now, but I'll come back to it later. So I like to say that I like to always tell people about the intercept between data and business. I mentioned it a bit when I talked about having your domain knowledge and then having the data skill as the background. Domain knowledge is very good. So when you are marketing, when you're a marketer, when your main domain is marketing, then you become a marketing data analyst. When your main domain is operations, you become an operations data analyst. But one thing that I find very interesting about this skill in data is that it is very transferable. I remember going for an interview about 3 years ago, 4 years ago in a company. And after I had done the whole skill testing, writing the codes, they asked me a question. They said, you do not have the domain knowledge. You don't have the business knowledge in this. You don't know anything about our business. So how can we hire you? My response was, data talks. I said, data will teach me your business. And through data, I will challenge your status quo. I will learn your business, and I will challenge your processes that do not align to the data that you have. That sounded very interesting, and I got the job. So I always tell people, don't be too concerned about the business, the domain. It is an added advantage. But I've seen many people. In my last class, I had a lawyer who learned how to code. And she got called by Bell. They were not looking for a lawyer, they were looking for a data analyst. She wrote the code and they hired her. So it's not, so I tell people, don't be too bothered about the business. But however, understand that the whole essence of data analytics, data projects, data work is to enable business operations, business process. So it's either to make it easy, to make it efficient, to drive more revenue, or to make more effective strategy. So data and business must intercept. For you to drive good value from data, you have to be able to understand business goals. So what is the business goal of the company? Are they looking for how to embed insights? Are they looking for how to make their operations more efficient? Are they looking for the right answers on how to move their business forward? These are the things that we always drive the data projects that is being done in any organization. So I decided to give you this slide to show you an example of what we call data or business insight. We call this thing dashboard. And within a dashboard, we always talk about KPIs. KPIs are simply key performance indicators. Some people call them key performance metrics. It means that within every business, there are always things that the business will be monitoring or will love to track. Those are the things that determine whether they are doing well, whether there is a need of concern, or whether they are in a position to grow. So things like year over year, things like month over month, things like performance versus target. So think about if I'm an executive and you send me this insight. This is a dashboard, a visualization. When I look at this, the very first thing I will look at that will catch my eyes will be my performance versus target. And if I look at my product 3, I will see that my product 3 has exceeded target. So it means that I'm doing so well here. There are two things. It's either that I didn't set my target rightly or that I'm overperforming. And it's a portfolio that I should look well into. But if you also look at product 1, you will see that even though I have not met target, but my volume is driving from it. So what are these things making me? They are making me to look for questions. I am trying to reason it out. What should I do best? What else should be my next move? And that is why it is always said that Insights, it drives questions. It drives people to want to know more. And that is why executives are looking for people who can tell them the story in data, who can give them insights, who come this all see where to complete meaningful insights. See my customer base. This report is saying that it grew 200% from last year. So the next question is why? What did we do different from the other year? What happened? Was it a super campaign? Did we open new locations? Like, what could have happened that we multiply this way? So that if it's something that is a good story, we can leverage it, we can expand it, and we can do more. Is it one region that has driven it this way? So that we can go to other places and also implement the same. So this is why it is very important for data to be turned into insights for business stakeholders, because it helps them to understand the story behind their business. 58% of my business is in Europe. What am I doing in Europe that I need to do in North America to also grow my market in North America? These are questions, these are thoughts that will keep going through the mind of the executives, and they will keep coming back to you with more questions for you to analyze, more questions for you to give them insight on. So this is why data has become a very big deal in the market, because executives need answers to so many questions, and they're looking for people who are able to answer those questions. So remember, like I mentioned, there are always business goals that drive the need for data. One of them is that most businesses will always want to optimize. What does it mean to optimize? There are so many ways you want to optimize your business. Optimize means to get the best mix of match in your business. So whether you're talking about operational efficiency, you want to reduce repetition of work, you want to automate your processes. To do that, you need data. This is where artificial intelligence is playing a very big role in the current market, because artificial intelligence and machine learning is a process that looks at repetitive events and then tries to automatically keep repeating that event. So it takes away the need for a human to keep doing the same thing every time, every time. So when the machine looks at you and see how you're doing it repeatedly, the machine can take over and now start doing it itself. That is the story of artificial intelligence. So a typical example is when you take, before you have checkbook, you go to the bank and you put it in. So many people have written checkbooks. So think about, for so many years, there are so many handwritten checkbooks. So what happened is that a collection of all these checkbooks, checks that we have written to cash money was put into a machine and scanned into a software so that it can learn all the handwritings that could ever have been and read it and master it, and then use that ability to read every other check that could ever come. And that is why you can just take your check, scan it, and the artificial intelligence can read how much you have in that check based on your handwriting and deposit that money for you. So what it has done is that it has removed automated process that the tellers could have always done, and it has been replaced by an artificial intelligence through machine learning. Another thing is empower. Every business wants to empower. They want to enable. In a place where we have data. So if I know that if my sale is $20, I approve. If it is not $20, if it's $40, A approves. If it is $60, B approves. Before, if a manager had to approve everything, now by having factual data around, it's very simple, because now you can delegate, you can innovate, you can enable, you can empower people, because it is based on facts. Once they see the data, They know, oh, I can approve this one, I cannot approve that one. Another thing it helps is embedding real-time information. Before we wait for bash, it takes till night for everything to be moved. But now data analytics machine learning infrastructure has enabled real time so that people are served, customers are happy, there is continuous business, we are beating competition because everything happens as it comes. So these are the things that business is trying to do, these key three things. But based on this, there are so many projects and there are so many skills that are needed within the data ecosystem to be able to achieve it. So I would like to talk about data roles. I always like to bring it in this format because this format helps me to be able to explain how they build on top of each other. So here we have the data architecture. What the data architect does, like I always tell people, the data architect is just like a house architect. And I always like to use the house building as an example. So when you want to build a house, the first thing you do is that you call an architect. What the architect does is that the architect draws the frame of your house. So he takes a paper and starts to draw the house. The living room should connect to the sitting room. The sitting room should connect to the bedroom. The bedroom should connect to the washroom. So he's just trying to do the roadmap to build a frame. So that is what the data architect does. So what does the architect do? They build the frame. Oh, I think we need a marketing data set. I think we need a sales data set. We need HR data set. Okay, I think that the sales data set should connect to the HR data set. I think the HR data set should connect to the marketing data set. So he's building a connection between these different blocks in the warehouse. So where we live, we call it a house. But I want to call this one the warehouse. So the data architect puts everything together, looks for the connector between each of these data warehouses. And once he finishes it, that's basically his work. He takes the drawing that he has drawn and shown how each of them will connect to each other and gives it to a database developer. The database developer is the person that builds the actual data content. So the data content in this is built by codes. So it could be an SQL code, but it always depends on the infrastructure that you're using. We have different infrastructures in the market. So we have Oracle. So it means that the developer will be writing an Oracle code. We have SAP. It means that the person will be writing an SAP code. We have Netiza. We have Hadoop now. We have cloud, data lakes, Azure. We have AWS. So this, in whichever is the infrastructure that the database developer wants to use or that the company is using, the database developer will go in there and write the codes. After he builds the content of the data, the administrator manages the process and the loading. In some organizations, these roles can be combined, but in very big organizations, they are all individual teams and roles. So the database administrator are the people that load the data, that load the infrastructure based on the code that the developer has built. They load it every day with the sales data, with the marketing data, so that when you come into the house, the infrastructure, you will be able to see content to use. Then the next one is the data miner, which is data analyst. I put it, I highlighted it because for me, this is the core role of the whole data ecosystem. What this does is that, think about it. if you do not know how to use a house, like you finish building a house, if the person that comes to think about somebody who has never lived in a house before, does not know what a house is used for, and the person is supposed to draw a house, supposed to build the house, it's going to be very difficult, or it's going to be, some things will just be out of place. But if you think of somebody who has used a house before, lived in a house before, actually now develop into the skill of building the house, there always going to be some perfection in that. So a data analyst is the person who uses the data content. So after the house has been built, somebody goes to the sitting room to sit down, goes to the living room goes to the bedroom to sleep, goes to the kitchen to use. The data analyst is equivalent to that. They mine the data. So they get to this infrastructure and they mine the data. They use the data to anywhere they want. And how they do it by querying, using codes to query the data that the developer, the administrator, and the architect has developed for them. Now, the data analyst can also be the business intelligence or the reporting analyst. What the business intelligence or reporting analyst does is that after you have got this data,
please can we sorry, Nana, can we all mute ourselves, please? Nelson.
Data, now you produce the reports, the insight, the visualization, which comes back to that dashboard that I showed you. This is always the area that the executives are looking for. Most data analysts are also business intelligence or reporting analysts. So you will now take everything you have mined now, then you're going to make it, you're going to put it in a form that it can be consumed, it can be eaten. So think about it. You can go around in your house, but you have to put the house in a livable form. So you have to put the bed that people can lie down and make things to then decorate the house. So business intelligence is more like a decoration over the data you have mined. So instead of sending your executive the raw data that you pulled out, you now put it into beautiful charts, beautiful pie charts, circle pie charts, different forms, so that it becomes, beautiful, palatable, ability for one to consume it. Then it brings out the insights. In some companies, the data analyst and the business intelligence are two different people. In other companies, they are together. But the truth is, if you do not know the job of a data analyst, it's very difficult to be hired as a business intelligence analyst, because most times they expect you to be able to pull out your data and then beautify it. So you can use things like Tableau, Cognos, things like Power BI to build, and even Excel to build your dashboards. And then you can also put it in PowerPoint and make your commentaries, your storytelling, to send it out to your executives. Then this is where, in statistics, we call it descriptive analytics ends. Descriptive analytics is like you're describing what it is as at today. So you go to your data, you pull out the data. I can see that your sales as at today is 200,000. I can see that your sales as at yesterday is 100,000. That's what you do. You're describing what is there. It is said in business that 80% of decisions that are made in business is based on descriptive analytics. So it means that if you only know how to query data and build insights and reports out of the data, that 80% of business questions you will be able to answer. Because if my volume in Ontario today constitutes 80% of my business or 50% of my business, if I go with that assumption that next year I will be plus or minus 2. Most times I am right, unless there are major events or major shifts in the market. However, predictive analytics, or what we call data science in current term, is what we call predicting the future. So I am saying, if I made a sale of 2,000 today, what could be my sale tomorrow? So we are predicting the future. To predict the future in statistics, you need volumes of data, because it's going to do lots and lots of iterations to be able to see how many times this thing has occurred in the past, to be able to be confident that it will repeat again in future. So, for example, it is noted that forex US to Canada on the 24th of December, we always fall, we always go down. But this is based on over 20, 40, 50 years of data that has shown that there's always a dip on the 24th night for US to Canada conversion. So it has gone so many times, so many times, so many times, so many times. If you look at the weather forecast, they have gone through April 1st so many years that they have come to realize that on April 1st every year, the likelihood that it will rain, it will snow is this. The likelihood that if it snowed the day before, then it will do this. If it rained 1 week before, it will do this. If it rained 2 months before, it will do this. So this is how predictive analytics work. The challenge about this, I know that many people want to say, oh, I want to be a data scientist, or I want to be a predictive analyst. The challenge with it is that it is built on core statistics. So you're not hired in that job just because you know how to code. You're hired to the job because you understand statistics and you're able to know which statistics principle should you use to make forecasts. If you come to me and say, you're going to win 1 million in a week's time, why should I believe you? There's no reason to believe you. So the same way, if you come to a business and tell a business, oh, you're going to have your sales is going to multiply by 5 times in 1 year, why should they believe you? The only reason why they will believe you is because you're authentic. You have a thought knowledge in statistics. So they believe that based on statistical methodology that you know and have applied, that you can be true. And that is why to function in this data, in this field, they always look for people who have PhD and sometimes master's degree. The market right now has a lot of people with PhD are coming up, and they all have interest in predictive modeling, machine learning, and AI, which is now making that field, but they don't have any interest in the data analyst part, because when they finish building these machines and this predictive modeling, then the data analysts will end up also being the ones to analyze it and put it together for business. That continues to make that line, that thin line of career that most people do not want to go in. And for me, that is why I played in that career. And I think that that is also what has leveraged my fast moving. AI is simply saying that we took the predictive model, instead of somebody to keep doing it, keep running this model, and every day, we gave it to the machine, and the machine now runs it. And once in a while, we go there, we will look at it to make sure that it's still running well. But however, it is the analyst that is checking the output of this machine learning and reporting on it to make sure that it is operating efficiently. And when there are issues, we highlight it so that that machine can be touched again, tuned or calibrated. So the good thing about this ecosystem is that there is a lot of job that is there. It has also created a lot of other subsidiary jobs. So when you think about the project managers, you think about the business system analysts, you think about the BAs, you think about the testers, you think about the data governance, you think about the data steward. These are all the roles that they interfere with this whole data project. So if a business wants to build an ecosystem, whether they want to do an integration of their process, they will need a project manager, they will call a business system analyst, they might call a scrum master. So the whole ecosystem has brought out a lot of career that is out. But for me, I personally like the technical part because naturally many people do not want to do things that are very technical. So it creates a gap, an opportunity for those who are technical to be able to play. Many people who are technical do not like business. Many people who like business do not like technical. It comes down to the same thing like when we were in school. They'll say those who like English do not like math. Those who like math do not like long story. But when you can come in between and have a bit of both, then you become a skill that will be different, that everybody will like. I remember when I went for interview for my current role, which I remember the SVP saying, oh, I always find it interesting when I see someone that has an MBA and the person is really, really a quant person. I always want to see how the mix of that person is. Because it's something that you don't really see, people who are good in both sides, it becomes something that is good or a skill that is easy for you to market. So I tried to do a mapping of the skills. So when we talk about integrating data, we are asking, where do our data exist? So we are looking at data warehousing. So we're looking at people like data architects. We are looking at, this is called data modeling, which is the same thing as data architecture. So you draw it, and then you're trying to see what are the variables, what are the data, what are the columns, what are the variables that I should bring into this data? What should I call it? How should they map to each other? Should it be one to many? Should I map one customer name against many addresses? Should everybody just have one name and one address? So this is more like a design. You're thinking through it. How do I bring all this data? How do I get all of them to talk together? This is where that role exists. And the core skill you need for this role is based on the infrastructure that you're going to be working on. If your infrastructure is Oracle, Netezza, you're looking at SQL. If your infrastructure is SAP, you're looking at SAP. If your infrastructure is the cloud, Hadoop, data lake, then you're looking at things like Spark. You're looking at things like Cassandra. You're looking at things like Soup. So the skill you have here, if you're talking about AWS, then you're looking at AWS. So the skill you're looking for here, it always depends on the infrastructure that you're going to be integrating this data in. Discover what value exists in your data. We're talking about, data profiling, looking at the data, looking at the characteristics of this data. What do we have in there? Is it region? Is it gender? Is it age? Is it sales? Is it marketing? What is it that we have? What can we do with it? What is it that we have collected? How good is our data? What is the quality? Can we trust it? Can we use it? Does it even make sense? Is it full of missing data? Is it full of outliers? Here you have a lot of people work here. Data governance, data quality. Again, you need SQL because you cannot profile data without knowing how to code. So you need to know how to program to be able to profile data, to source it, to understand what is there. Then we go to trust. Trust is all about, right now, there's a lot of things on privacy. So we are talking about how do we manage access? Who are those that you have access to data? What kind of approval do we need? How do we reconcile our data to make sure data is consistent across everywhere? What kind of controls do we need? How do we treat private data? These are big deal, especially in Canada, because any data that goes away is a lot of media. So this is another job where people are talking about data stewards, talking about data governance, talking about reconciliation analysts. Then we go to describe. These are now people that take data to know what happened and why did it happen. So we're talking about reporting, data intelligence, business insights, data analysis, reporting. Then we go to predict. We are looking at what will happen in the future. And here we're talking about data science, we are talking about machine learning, we're talking about artificial intelligence and predictive models. So this is how the ecosystem works together. You cannot really jump from one to the other. First of all, the business has to declare what is their goal. Are they trying to become an insightful organization, or are they looking for to operationalize their processes and remove repetition? So whatever it is, they will go through data preparation, looking for their data, collecting data, building an infrastructure, validating the data, making it to be useful. Then they go to descriptive, creating the reports, visualization, insights. Then they can go to the modeling, building models, checking it out, testing it, interpreting the model, then validating it, calibrating it, checking how it is going, and then they can deploy it. This is the actual ecosystem. The data analysis ends under descriptive analytics. Why data science starts from predictive model to model implementation. In the current market, people call data science and data analyst the same. The only way to differentiate it is that a junior data analyst or an intermediate data scientist is a data analyst. So it's always that you have to be a data analyst first, because you have to understand how today happens before you can be thinking about what will happen tomorrow. If you have no idea of today, you cannot predict tomorrow. So first of all, you have to be a data analyst first before you now start talking about being a data scientist. When you're looking for a job, there are many roles that are data scientists. There are labeled as data scientists, but that role is just simply a data analyst role. Basically, because data science is a big hype in the market, some people are just using it to label jobs, to just bring in things. So I wanted to bring a little bit of the industry trends for you. So if you look at the job landscape, and they're looking at it, the World Economic Forum is looking at what we become in 2022. The 10 emerging skills are data analysts and data scientists, AI and machine learning specialists. So these two are the top two. That is what is making noise in the market. Every business needs insight. Every business wants to understand what to do with their data. How can they make good decisions? How do they have an efficient operation? How can they bring effectiveness into their business? I tried to do a little bit of Googling. Right now, there are 4,426 jobs for just data analysts, not even data science. So I just did it like a straight Google. So I went to Indeed.ca and I typed data analyst, and it pulled up 4,931 just alone here. Data analysts these days are also called data translators. So there are so many roles that are coming up. The basic skills you need is that first, you must learn how to tell story. If you know how to tell story, write your commentary. Data analytics and business insights is all about SQL, SAS, Tableau, Hadoop, and Hive is something that with this, you can get your way in. In data science, there is Spark. Why Spark is there is that Spark is one of the softwares that helps you to pull 1 trillion data records in 1 second. If you have a lot of data and you're doing it with SQL, you're going to be there for 2 weeks still pulling one data. But with Spark, you will get it in a matter of seconds because it uses the Hadoop distributed framework to run data. And then we talk about machine learning. We talk about building the models in Python. and displaying it in Tableau. But I always say, you cannot go to the one on the right without the one on the left. Because even when you go to Spark, this Spark is SQL that you're writing in Spark. SQL is a fundamental language that is written across all these platforms that I have shown you. In SAS, you write SQL. In Hadoop, you write SQL. In Spark, you write SQL. In Tableau, you SS whichever part you want to go in data analytics, it is good to know it. And when I walked through the roles, SQL is a fundamental skill that you need to function in any of those data skills. Here again is the growing skills, like we call it the soft skills. So the one I showed you before is the hardcore skill. If you look at the soft skills, they are looking for, number one, analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, originality and initiative, technology design and programming, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving. This whole thing that I have called is basically analytics. Like when you look at data, when you look at numbers, it helps you to be able to be creative and to think analytically and to look for gaps and how to build innovations. It drives questions, and through those questions, it opens strategies. And this is why being analytical is very important, because it opens a lot of other things for you. It allows you to think critically. It helps you to imagine, build strategies, innovative, creative. These are the skills that your employers are looking for you to demonstrate. But you have to learn to tell stories, learn to read data, learn to visualize for you to be able to display these skills. So these are basically the concepts. So no matter the skill, just to say it again, you do your data integration, data mining, analytics, whether it is descriptive or prescriptive, it comes here, or predictive. And then dashboard is just a way to display the data. So I've basically come to the end of, it's 8:57, so that's good. I'm kind of almost on time. So I'm going to keep you here. This is just basically my contact. And my next class will start February 8th. And if you want to contact me, you can use the phone number here, or you can use the email that is at the bottom. So I'm open to questions, and if anybody has. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Nena. We quite appreciate your time, and thanks for the insightful and informative presentation. So, guys, Nelson, do we have some questions from the chat that you want to present to Nena?
Yes, we do, but there are a few chats. Nena, if you look at your private chat, I've sent you 3 questions that I privately collated from what people ask. I don't know if you want me to read it out, but it's there on your private chat. What happened? See.
No, can you hear me? I'm still here.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I just stopped sharing because I wanted to go to the private chat.
Yeah, okay, that is fine.
Okay.
Okay. So let me start from the beginning. Okay, so the first question I see here says, what type of codes need to be learned? So like I said, SQL is the fundamental coding skill that you need to play in this field. So you will have to know SQL very well. You have to know Excel very well. SAS, not really. Only banks, a few banks and government and some telecom. But if you know it, that's also good. Then if you want to play in the data science world, you need Python and you need Spark. So these are basically the skills. But I always tell people, learning everything at the same time, you will not be able to master any. So I always tell people, start your career as a data analyst and then master the SQL very well, master how to generate insights, master descriptive analytics very well, and then progress your career to predictive analytics, which is data science. So the next question says, let me see.
So the next question says that when speaking to your company executives, what kind of data-related questions can you ask them to better understand their requirements?
Okay. So one of the good things, one of the good habits to do is always to confirm your business requirement. So if somebody says, oh, can you tell me what is causing the spike in my business? So maybe that is the business question you get. And then you go into your data and then you start to, look at your data, profile your data, put data together and start to build insights. Usually, it's always a good habit that when you get your first set of insights, it's always good to validate it. So without going to your executive, it's always good to go to your peers and say, I can see that Toronto is really pushing the market up. Does that make sense with what you see in the market? It's because most times the business, what is happening in the business always validates what comes out of data. But when it does not, then it is good to do your homework and make sure that, yes, that your data is saying otherwise, because that is going to be the first question that your business executive is going to challenge you with. Whenever you present something that does not align with their gut sense or what they are thinking, they are going to challenge you. And then it's always good that you have done your homework. One of the good ways to segment, to do your data, is to do segment. So let's say, for example, my sales in that Toronto is very high up and nothing else is showing it. I could take it and break it by age. People who are between 30 to 40, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, so that I can be able to see a smaller group that is really causing this hike. So that when I go to my executive, I will be like, when they ask me that question, I'll be like, yes, I did do a deep dive. I investigated further and I found out that people within the age 50 to 60 are what is driving the losses that we are having in bank. It makes you authentic because it shows that you've done some very good work. Because the way you respond to questions being asked also proves your that you're authentic. It shows that that you know what you're doing and that you've done your homework before time. So that's very important. I've always said that when you go, don't always be forward to ask questions. Rather, ask questions as if you are willing to give answers. Is there anything further you want to know? But start with what you have and then ask them questions. Is there anything further you want to know? Have I been able to explain it? Would you want me to do further deep dive? Does it make sense that this happened? Okay.
Okay. So the next question says, how can one begin in the data analysis and business intelligence field? What exact tools do I learn first and which next? Are there certifications one should also get?
So currently in the market, nobody looks at certifications anymore because certifications are just so many and everywhere. So what normally happens in the real industry is that when you apply for the job and you write that you have SQL and you know SAS, the simple thing that they do is that when you come in, you will have a test. If you write a test and you're able to pass your SQL test, then you'll be hired. Because it does not matter whether because most of these exams are OBJ, and it's been proven that people write the OBJ, but they don't know how to code. So I always tell people, do not bother yourself about certification. So like I said, I run a training school. Most people that came to my school, I tell them they should not even bother doing certification at all. They don't. They just apply for job and they get called for interview. They have to write a test, and when they pass it, they get hired. So yeah.
Okay, I think that actually answers the question. This one is from Akim, and he said, what do you look for in hiring analytics manager in your team in terms of tools and expectations?
Okay. So firstly, the first thing I look out for is the tools. So you're going to write an SQL test. So you will have to write the test because it's very important to me that you have the ability to be able to pull the data out of the database. Then the second thing I do is I ask you questions. These questions I ask you are things that I'm looking at you to use your experience and tell me how you have been able to help the company through decision making. So for example, I could ask you, tell me about a time that using the insight you have gotten that a business has been able to make a decision on it. I could ask you, tell me a time that you have gone through any form of automation. I could ask you, tell me a time that you have had a course to do data profiling and how did you go about it. Then I could also ask you, tell me something that you have done that you were able to influence a decision through your report. And the answers I'll be expecting, for example, is to say, let's say that I work in an insurance broker and I'm doing data. Maybe my answer would be that, I do this report, and using analysis, I was able to discover that there are some set of brokers that are doing well, but they are giving the same commission with everybody. So based on that, I was able to analyze and I was able to discover that, and I presented it to the executives, and we worked through a strategy to be able to do a commission that is tied to performance. So there has to be some work that you're able to generate insights and that you're able to help the organization create some value. Okay.
Okay, so I think based on the feedback from Nelson, I think it's like we've got more like repetitive questions. If there is anyone else that have any questions to ask, just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
I think we just got one from Susie, and
okay, go ahead.
And she said, she's just saying that for someone new to data analysis, they won't have great answers to these questions.
Yes, that's correct. So for every career path that you want to go into, one of the first things that you have to do, especially when you're completely new, is that you will have to be coached in that career. So you have to probably find maybe like a training school or somewhere that you can go through a training. So for example, in the school that I run, in the training I run, I teach how to code. And then I also teach you how to think analytical, how to start to look at your experiences and understand how you applied analytics in it, which ordinarily you would have thought I did nothing, or it was just a job. But with just changing the mindset, you will see that you did a lot of analytical work even without knowing you did so. So usually you have to find a coach, you have to go to school or something, but you need some kind of coach to kind of get you to that level where you will be able to speak about your experiences in an analytical form.
Okay, and we have one again from Jeremiah, and he says that how necessary is it to have a portfolio of data analytics projects in order to get a data analyst job?
So currently, the market has a lot of data analyst job because everybody is looking for insights. Everybody wants to understand what their business is doing. Some others are even regulatory, like in bank, you must have to monitor your portfolios. Retail, they have a lot of data. They cannot do with some. We cannot do without some level of analytics and insights. And then many other companies are trying to understand their data. They're all in different silos. So there is a lot of integration of data that is happening in a lot of organizations right now, that there are so many data projects. Those who have already integrated it are going to the cloud, and they're all moving their data from the normal infrastructure to cloud where it is cheap. So currently there is lots and lots of data work, data projects that is ongoing. And I think that in the market, even for another 10 years, almost all projects is data related. I think even for those who are business system analysts, project managers, they will know that most of the projects that they are being hired for right now are all data projects. That is what most companies and banks are releasing money for, because they want to integrate their data, get one customer view of the data so that they can be able to get an integrated one view insight. Because you could say that this customer is not owing in credit card, but this same customer is owing in mortgage, but because the customer is not owing in credit card, you keep increasing the person's credit card just because you did not know that this same customer is the same customer in mortgage. Is hurting a lot of companies. And so there's all this project to put everything together. And for the next 10 years, it's going to continue even more.
But they're all mostly contract jobs.
So for most of the, when you see a lot of project manager roles, scrum masters, they are contract roles. But when you look at data analyst roles, they are full-time, because data is an asset. The information is always confidential. So they like to take full-time people to do those roles.
Hello, Anita. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Remy.
Yeah.
Thank you for your insight. I just have a quick question. What about somebody who has the required skills in data analysis role, but is finding it difficult to break into, some of some organizations, because experience shows that you need to have a good referral before you can break into some of this network?
So my own experience is different, and the experience I have seen with a lot of people is different. So I don't think that you need a referral to get a job. Like I said, there are so many people that left my school, they've gotten a job. Many of them got job in, one of them got in TJS, somebody else got in Amazon, one got in Canada Vacations. They don't know anybody there. But I think the biggest issue that most people have, especially when they come from Nigeria, is that their resume does not actually depict the skills that are needed in market, even though they know it or they have it. So their resume does not speak to it. Their resume is not analytical by nature. And so if your resume is not analytical, how would you actually convince the HR who is looking at your resume, or the hiring manager who is looking at your resume, to actually call you for interview? So I have somebody that passed through my school. Was it last week? She told me she got 3 interviews, that she was going for those 3 interviews, and she came in 2018. And yeah, one of the other guy just came in from Nigeria, and the first job he got in Canada was with Amazon. So I think again that it's resume that normally causes that gap for those who already have those skills.
Okay, thank you. But do you help with resume?
I do that for those. I don't run a resume.
Clinic.
Yeah, but I do resume for those who come to my school. So as part of it, because at the end of the day, when they finish the class, I need them to get a job. So I work with them for them to create a resume that that can get an interview, because that's kind of the main thing. So most of them, when they put out their resume, they do get interview calls.
Hello, Nana. Thank you so much. My name is Chioma. Thank you so much for taking out the time to provide us with this information. It's been quite insightful. I have actually picked up a lot of things. My question will be towards the class that you'll be holding starting next, I think, no, February 8th. Could you please give us, is this a physical class? Is it weekend or weekdays? What time? So that people who would want to take advantage of this can come, if this is allowed, please.
Sorry, Chioma, let me cut in here. For that information, we'll get that across to you guys after now.
Okay.
What we try to do in this session is to get the members empowered through knowledge and information and all that. So for the training, the upcoming training she's talking about, we'll get those details to you guys. If there are other questions in respect to the presentation, especially in respect to the data analytics market in Canada, please let's try and focus on those areas at this moment.
Okay, thank you. I asked a question earlier, but some of the things that I wanted to know have been addressed. Basically, how one can make a switch, so to speak, in the into the data analytics field. I am a product manager and a business analyst myself. Over time, I've done a bit of analyzing data and all those things, but not really as a focal role. So how can one do that switch to increase one's chances and also find oneself in a type of role that is in high demand in the future, basically?
So like being a product manager is good, because it means that you have what we call the SME knowledge, which is basically the business knowledge. And I know that currently in the market, like I know that I was in a management meeting in my prayer bank, and they were talking about a BA role that opened up. I remember the BA executive saying, the person that was in charge of business analyst team saying something. He said, oh, we have this very strong candidate that came in. Oh, he's very, very good in business analysis. He understands the concept, the business gathering, the processes and everything. But we had a bit of a problem because he didn't know how to write SQL. So what is happening in the current market? Because one thing that happens in the market always is that as more and more people are leveraging double skills, it starts to take away from those who know only single skills. So most of people who were potentially BAs, so before, if you look at it like 6-7 years ago, they take a lot of BAs because the whole concern at that time was somebody to just come and write requirements. But now, currently in the current market, a lot of, with the whole agile concept that is everywhere. Now, what everybody is talking about is they want people that can switch skills. So being able to now know how to code as a BA becomes very important for you to get a BA job. Most times you see it as BA, but they're actually looking for a business system analyst. And that is why you go for interviews at the end of the day, you don't get the job, because even though you were good in BA, because you're also not a data analyst and a BA, it becomes hard. But because if you look at the process, after you finish gathering the requirements and then the developers are doing the work, they need somebody that will be testing the work. So it is very difficult to fire the BA and hire a QA, because now the QA does not know the beginning of the work. So they want somebody who at that time can switch from a BA to a QA. And so I just call it, you be a business analyst, so it's a good skill to have, and then be a data analyst. So you put the two together and make yourself a business system analyst, so that you will be needed and functional across the whole entire project. That's one way to switch, from switching from a BA to a BSA. Then Another way to switch is that you're already a product manager. So if you're able to get some hands-on skill and know how to write SQL or use Excel very well and get yourself Tableau, like these skills that I have on the board under data analytics, then you can take a job as a data analyst, a reporting analyst, a business intelligence analyst, and then from there you can build out your career the way you want it to be.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
Hello.
Hi, Dana. I want to thank you for a very good, well done job and very good presentation too. But my main concern is, yeah, data analytics sounds new. How has the industries been coping before it came in? I mean, it doesn't seem to sound any new to me, if you ask me. But if you can explain how businesses existed without data analytics, then one will be able to better appreciate what the new slang is all about.
Okay, that's a very great question. So before now, in so many years before, we had what we call the gut sense. So when you go to management meeting and then somebody says, my 2 cents tells me that if we go to Toronto to establish a firm, we're going to do well. Or we say, oh, in the news yesterday, we had a Home Depot established in Toronto. So let's say you work in Rona. You'll be like, okay, I also go to Toronto because Home Depot went to Toronto. So there was a lot of 2 cent knowledge, gut sense knowledge happening. But again, competition was not that bad at that time. But what changed the whole market was that Amazon decided to play in the data space. So Amazon took an initiative and hired a lot of data scientists and entered into the data world and started using a lot of predictions to go into the market. Then it started happening that Amazon started taking over a lot of people's market and started sending a lot of companies out of market, and people started getting concerned. And it was now known that Amazon was able to be the giant through data, and every other person decided to now run into data. And that was how Facebook, LinkedIn, Google now all started playing as the big giants in data. And then every other person is trying to catch up because it is said that if you do not play in data, that one truth is that you're going to be completely out of business in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So I would like to show you, I wanted to show you guys some of these quotes before. So I will show you some of the quotes that executives have kind of done before. So somebody said, without big data, you are blind and deaf and in the middle of a freeway. So these are the things, these are the quotes that are driving the whole market. In God we trust, all others bring data. Data is the new oil. Remember, it's all about hype. As long as it starts in the market and it starts to make noise, everybody is going to just follow it. They say no great marketing decision has ever been made on qualitative data. So like your question, businesses were all working on qualitative data before. Qualitative data is when we think about things like, I ask my customer, what do you like? I see this customer, I ask them question. I see another customer, I ask them question. I go to the street, I ask question. They said no good marketing decision has ever been made on that. That was proven when Amazon decided to work on actual data. That proved that qualitative data that others were using did not work well because Amazon took all of them by surprise. That's, for example, Toys R Us left US because all the toys during Christmas, during Thanksgiving are now all bought on Amazon. Then one says, torture the data and it will confess to anything. Mine the data. If once you take data, mine it, visualize it, it will give you any true truth you want. And that is why he says it will confess it. It will tell you the true facts, the true things about whatever situation. With data collection, the sooner the better is always the best answer. Big data isn't about bits, it's about talent. That's where we're talking about people who understand how to mine the data, understand the language, also understand the story. So usually they will look at the skill. Nobody's looking at certification. Because what's the essence that you give me a big certification, then when I hire you, you don't even know how to write the code. So I care about you write the code. I don't care about what degree you have. It's a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Without a systematic way to start and keep data clean, bad data will happen. You can have data without information, but you can never have information without data. If we have data, let's look at it. If all we have are opinions, then let's go with mine. Or else show the data. It's current market. When you go to your VP or SVPs to present any case, once you finish talking, the next question you will get is, where are the facts? So for you to even walk into that meeting, you have to come with a report that will show your facts. Before, when you go to executives and you tell a very beautiful story of what is happening around town, what the news is saying, they will believe you. But now nobody believes you unless you have the facts on paper. Big data is at the foundation of all the mega trends that are happening today, from social to mobile, to the crowd, to gaming. Data are just summaries of thousands of stories. Yeah, all the stories around, you summarize them. Tell a few of those stories to help make the data meaningful. And that's what I'm saying. You must learn how to tell stories. After you have gotten all your data, you have to put this data together. You have to put your story together. We all tell stories in life. When you go home and you say, wow, do you know what happened on the road today? I saw this car happen to this. I saw this person do this. I met this colleague. You know, we went out for lunch. We all tell stories. We talk about our children. We talk about our spouses. We talk about where we come from. So by nature, we are all storytellers. It's all about taking that same skill, put it to the data you have, and tell a different version of story. Instead of talking about how you went to this secondary school, then talk about how sales have grown in your company for the past 5 years. It is the same skill, the same concept. So it's just for you to transfer it. Data beats emotions. I remember in the one company that I worked in, and there was this software they wanted, that my executive director wanted to approve. The CIO refused to approve it because he said that the software was no longer doing anything. They were having this challenge for over 2.5 years until I came into that company. Within 2 weeks, I took the input and output from that software, analyzed it, and presented it. That thing was approved the following day because I dropped the facts on the table. In fact, I remember my SVP then, it was about 3 years ago. By 7 o'clock in the morning, she sent me an email. I still have it in my email. She said, all through the night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about you. I am happy that I met you in my lifetime. It's all about telling stories, just moving everything that you have and just put the same story. It passes the emotions. I don't want to approve this, but the fact says you have to approve it. You will approve it. And that is the truth. Data really powers everything that we do. Data that is loved tends to survive. So these are few things. Where there is data smoke, there is business fire. So you see, with all these things, there is no reason why any business will not concentrate on building a strong data infrastructure and using insights to run their business.
Okay. I think that's just about the number of questions that we can take. We are really, really very grateful, Nena, for the lecture. It has been very, very insightful. I know that there may be a few people that have 1 or 2 questions that you want to ask. Like I said, we can collect them and send them to Nena offline, and she can reply us. We want to say a big thank you on behalf of everyone in the group. It has been very refreshing. I most definitely learned a lot, and I have to go on my own data skills. Thank you for sharing your time with us, Nena. We really, really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. I'm happy that I was able to do it, and I'm hopeful, and I hope that I've been able to impact one or two people, and I've been able to also pass across some knowledge and experience that I have. And I really do wish that, it will go a long way for every one of you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And then, just like Nelson said, thank you. This is quite impactful. At least the truth is that we've had data from every nooks and crannies, but having listened to this session, one will be able to understand what data means and what data represents. And for me personally, one insightful area has to do with the different roles in data analysis, the way you're able to break it down. So that helps people as well to understand the different areas within data analysis. That is quite insightful. Thank you so much. We quite appreciate your time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, and thanks so much to everyone. Thanks for making our time to listen to this session and be empowered.